Oh, what's happened there? That
Mr Wiggly, I boosted yo.
Hey, indeed. Welcome, one and all. We've made it to issue number 2, episode number 2, anyway, of the Mr Wiggly Sunday Livestream. I have an amazing special guest who made it not just to episode number 2. He went to about 102, I think. And sadly, he kind of stopped the week he was going to interview me. So I kind of thought it would be good to get him off his holidays, get back in and start him talking to me, and we could have a kind of chat about why he stopped and what he's up to. So, ladies and gentlemen, can I happily present Jamie Morden?
All right, John. Yeah, sorry about that. Is that you singing on that reggae thing?
No, it's Leonard Ludvigsen. Right. It's me doing the backing track, and it's an amazing...
do sing, don't you?
I do, yeah. I do for my sins. Occasionally I have been known. Backing vocals more than anything, to be honest. But yeah, it's a guy called Leonard Ludvigsen who is very active on the Deluge scene. And he makes the most amazing reggae stuff. It's brilliant. So I did the backing track and I sent it over to him, and he just sent that back. He said, I've done a bit of stuff over the top. What do you think? And it's just like... That's incredible. A couple of years ago, and then COVID killed it. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing, I can stick it back on in the background. It's a chorus and everything. Anyway, let's just find out what we're going to do next. What I wanted to talk to you about was kind of the past, the present, and the future, and kind of what you're up to. But more than anything, you are behind this amazing GEOSynths patch type library thing, so let me kill that for a second, which has the world's largest selection of amazing patches, I think, for a huge selection of synths and so forth, plus a load of tools and reviews and everything. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit more about GEOSynths, because I don't think you talked about it enough on your show, to be honest.
No, I didn't. That's half the reason why it ended. But no, I mean, GEOSynths, what it is, it's I'm a self-employed sound designer, started in sort of 2017 doing it, and it was just really started with the OB6 synth, and then my sort of philosophy was, okay, let's sell all the vintage stuff. In fact, there was a lot of other things like selling a house and moving, but buy some of the latest gear and just work on some of the sort of top synths. Really, it was an interesting time, but yeah, I mean, essentially, I've done. What is it? I think I made some notes of it somewhere. Yeah, I've got like 27 different products as well as bundles of those.
Wow. And
it's 16 different synthesizers. So yeah, it's quite a lot and counting.
Yeah. What's the current one that you're doing?
It's the Arturia Polybrute, actually. I just released that. It's Secrets Volume 1. And I did it took about a month to make, because that's generally in the ballpark for like 128 patches. More so when it comes to things like the Moog one, because there's essentially 3 synths in that. So generally about a month. But yeah, put those out, and then it's straight on to, I'm doing some tutorials now at the moment with it. For my Patreon account, and then moving on to some other synths, really. So yeah.
Oh, cool. That's fast. I think what's that, about 5 or 6 patches a day, non-stop, something like that. With
Yeah, I mean, I do that. I can do, depending on the synth, if it's, and also I sometimes make a little bit too much work for myself. Like, for instance, the last bank I did for the Prophet 12, Rev 2, because they each have 2 layers. I decided, all right, let's make a bank of 128 patches where everyone uses both layers. So it's just really because I was curious to hear what it sounded like, really, because I just make patches for me and then I sell them. You know, I don't sit down and think, oh, I wonder what will sell or anything like that. I just make a load of variety of different types of sounds. I try to keep everything musical. Yeah, there's the odd thing that might be a bit of a sound effect, but I try to keep it musical so it could be played and put into people's music. You know, whether they tweak it, completely change it, or you know, whatever. Starting points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but names. How'd you come up with the names, let alone the patches? I mean, obviously the most important thing. Is the
patch names. Oh, they're the biggest ache in the world. They are. It's the first thing that pops into my head. So if I'm playing a pad and it's like I'm hearing these strange, weird, wiry things, or I'll look around the room and I'll look for a word that's on something. You know, that's about it, really. I mean, a lot of it. The great thing about, you know, obviously the whole sort of synthesizer and electronic music is there's that tie-in with science and science fiction and all that type. Yeah. So I just go on a science website and look. Oh, that's a nice word. Something to do with quantum mechanics. Let's pull that in. So,
I mean, 128 a month. It's still a tall order. Trying to come up with something that
it is. Yeah, you can't just go pad 1, pad 2, pad 3.
No, exactly. Okay, so you have been streaming this kind of time every Sunday for the last 2+ years, right? So you got to 100 over 100 with some astonishing guests. If you haven't followed this, I mean, I'm sure everyone watching this has followed you in the past, but go check out the 100th show where you run this kind of compilation of everybody that you've had on, or the vast majority. And it's just astonishing. I can't believe you've had that amount of people just come through the door.
Yeah, me neither.
That length of time. Yeah, I mean, just incredible. I'm going to ask you a little bit about some advice on streaming, but what I was going to do was I was going to show you this. Which is
that the Fonz?
No, it's not. This is BA Plushworks Smith, who's recently popped up on the radar in a couple of synth groups that I'm on. Who the start that he basically said, "Hi, welcome everyone. I'm going live." I went on a live stream for a couple of hours yesterday, and I got it all wrong. And unfortunately, I couldn't find the live stream, and he didn't tell me what went wrong. Didn't mention it. However, this is a 2-hour live stream. And this is basically what you get. He forgot to send the audio into the streaming thing. So it's literally 2 hours of clicks, which I feel really sorry for. And there are people in the chat like going, starting off quite polite.
Yeah. No,
and then getting worse and worse. Yeah, I like that, you know. Oh, you can't actually see what I'm viewing. So let me just flip that here. So, this is Mr. Plushworks.
Of course.
It'll make a lot more sense if you can actually see what I'm seeing. So here is his live stream for 2 hours.
It's just the clicky clacky keys of the digitator
and every now and then he kind of turns around and looks at the screen and goes, yeah, this is good. So have you got any advice? Well, first of all, have you had any streaming nightmares?
Oh God, yeah.
This level.
There's been loads of them, loads of gremlins, and it's always really been audio, or it's been things dropping out, or I've had to run downstairs and reboot the router, or, you know, because that's the thing, you know, the whole thing with lockdown was, I mean, I used to have an office. It was a like shared council building. It was like for new businesses and things like that. So I had everything in there, and then I had to pull it all out, obviously, for lockdown was coming. So the internet there was great, but here it was awful. So there'd be a lot of, you know, so I had to reduce the amount of people that came on. And there were times, I'd be muted. And luckily, you know, if like Lisa was in the chat there, but her and a load of others would be shouting, oh, you know. So there's that. There was one as well. I did an 8-hour stream for Synthfest to do with Sound on Sound. Paul Gilby, who was on with me, and I mean that was a great show. I mean, I had like Adrian Utley that I pre-recorded, Dave Smith, a load of YouTubers who came on live. So it was 8 hours, but around sort of like hour 6. The software started to mess up. So every time I clicked a button to change the screen, it took longer and longer and longer. Right. And so then I had to just turn it off midway through and then just put it up. But that's the great thing about live streaming is it's a bit like gigging. You know, once you're out performing on stage, you hit a bum note or something, it's gone. You know, so it's just the nature of it. But yeah, it was usually audio.
Okay, well, I mean, I thought he would remove this video by this stage, but I think he's in the States, he's probably asleep. He's probably going to wake up and do episode 3 of, another disaster video. But we have Inky in the chat. Hello to people in the chat, by the way. We have first in, as always, Keith in Watford. Thank you very much. Native VS, all sorts of wonderful people. Inky is on mod duty. Because although we're a young channel, we did have some. It was probably this guy actually, Plushworks, popped in last week and started annoying everyone. So you've got to be nice and be nice to Inky, and she'll allow you to enjoy yourselves in the chat. We have got a couple of quizzes going on. Anyone? Did you watch last night? I don't think last week. You probably did you?
I don't think so. No,
no, that's absolutely fine.
Off with it all.
Of course it was. I wouldn't have expected you to. We've got a couple of quizzes, including an excellent quiz, which is questions from my 9-year-old daughter, which you're going to love. But we've got some pop quiz and some reality quiz. So we're going to need some help from the chat, I think, to make us not look too stupid. So let's give that one. So here is a pop quiz. Which artist had a huge hit in the 90s with the song Hold On? We'll give it a while. The trouble with the chat answering is you may think you're first, but there's a delay with everyone watching the chat, so someone else might type in front of you. I'll give you a clue. Wilson Phillips, Nana Cherry, Madonna or Paula Abdul. 90s track. Hold On. Any idea, Jamie?
No.
Who's got it? Anyone in there? Maybe this is. I thought these ones were going to be too easy, to be honest. Ace. No, it's not Ace. Give it a few more seconds. Don't know how much delayed the chat is. So a huge hit in the 90s with the song Hold On. Cherry? No. Pierre the Acid. Wilson Phillips. Yes, it was. There was a choice of 4, of which Cherry wasn't any of them. But well done. Good one, AZO Head. I'll give you a couple more. Which 80s band wanted to make music like a factory would build a car with a designer's attention to detail? Was it ABC, Tubeway Army, Spandau Ballet, or Depeche Mode? It's got to be worth a guess. Jamie, ABC, Spandau Ballet, Tubeway Army, Depeche Mode.
What was the question again?
Which 80s band wanted to make music like a factory would build a car with a designer's attention to detail? Wagyu's got it. ABC, not Depeche Mode. Okay, let's do one more. I'll find one that's slightly easier. He said. Oh, here's a good one. Here's a year. I Will Always Love You was a global smash hit for Whitney Houston. In which year? 91, 92, 93 or 90? So 90, 91, 92 or 93? Go on, Jamie. I Will Always Love You.
I'm going to go for 90.
Nope. Anyone else fancy a guess? 91, yes. Oh, no, it wasn't 91. There's only 2 left. It's going to be either 92 or 93. 92, Native VS wins again. Well done. Okay, well, that was a very exciting pop quiz. I can see that went down pretty. Wait till you hear the questions from my daughter, though. Let's talk about the past then. So what I want to know is what makes you a sound designer, as in not what allows you to be one, but what brought you here. I've always seen sound designers slightly strange in a good way, but a bit like mastering engineers. So they are heavily involved in the industry, but kind of faceless. They're not.
They are
the glory side, I guess. You know.
No, I think you're right, and I suppose it's another category of. I suppose it's patch designer, or because obviously sound designer is a job within the film and TV industry, isn't it? You know, if it's sort of doing the sort of soundtrack work or Foley, that type of thing, you have sound designers within that. So I don't do any of that. I guess my kind of start. Really from getting it's making sounds. I like a lot of us, you know, we twiddle around on synthesizers and, you know, we'll either tweak something that's existing there or we actually sit down and learn it so we know it instinctively. And I guess I used to gig with my ex, and we did it for 10 years, and I used to do all my own backing tracks, as well as I used to sell them on a CD and advertise them through Stage. So it was like the latest, you know, hits in the charts, do the MIDI files, and then I'd make the sounds. And my thing was to make it sound as close to the original as possible. And you're talking kind of like 90s, early thousands for this. So it was a little bit easier in that every sort of track that was in the charts used the same synths, you know, or workstations back then, so you could get them fairly identical. But that honed my kind of skills, if you like, for making sounds like an original. And that's a really great way to learn, is rather than, you know, just sitting down with an initialized patch, is to deconstruct how someone else does it. Then you can attempt. You've got to sort of build up some knowledge first, and not just, you know, turn on oscillator 1, oscillator 2, detune, and then reach for the filter, which I suppose lots of people do. You know, it's a totally different sort of process, really, that I kind of use. So yeah, that's kind of really how it started. Of course, I'd always done it, but I'd moved into video production. And I worked for Yellow Pages, yellow.com. I was the sort of manager of videography, to setting up a network of videographers. But then that was interesting. I was there 9 months, and then they shut down 7 or 8 of the offices, and I was in one of them. So I was told, that's it, sorry, you made redundant. And then this job came in. It was a window cleaner, and he wanted, he wanted whiz bang and everything. He'd sent links, and it was like, no way, we can't do that. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to turn this guy into like a James Bond. So I did a load of motion graphics and all this kind of thing. We shot it down in London on a Sunday at 5:30 in the morning, just down from St Paul's Cathedral, so we could get it so it was quiet in London, and it was cheesy as hell. But, well, it sparked a lot of interest in Yell, and they rescinded my redundancy. So I ended up doing hundreds of videos, you know, all sort of $5,000 plus budget videos. Oh, wow. And that was great, because that actually, if I hadn't done that, as well as gigging, I probably wouldn't have done the live show, because a lot of what I was doing with the video side of things was, obviously, you interviewing people for testimonials, and some people aren't very good in front of the camera, and you've got to draw out their story. So it's the whole, as well as the technical side of filming and planning. You know, there's the actual, as I said, the interviews, and a lot of the videos that we were doing, it was all like 8-hour shoots. I had multiple different projects going on at the same time in different kind of stages. So a lot of it is to, you know, get organised really as much as possible. But alas, Yell being Yell, it all kind of ended in 2016. So I was made redundant then. Again, well, it actually happened. So it was, I got my severance, as they call it, over, you know, redundancy money. And it was a case of, I either upgrade my camera kit for freelance work, because it was that kind of changeover when half-decent 4K cameras were coming out. I don't mean like DSLRs, I mean like, you know, decent cinema cameras. So it was that, or I'd just put out some patches for the OB6. That was my first ever bank officially, and then it was either choice of that. So I went with the patches, and it wasn't quite working at first. Not enough money to sort of pull in, nowhere near it. And but I thought, you know what, let's just go all in. Sold the gear, sold my house, moved up to Blackpool. I've got family here, and that's what started in. Wow. Yeah, well, 2017, really.
That's a major. That's a proper right. I'm going for this. You know,
that's what I do. That's always been my thing.
You saw the potential. Yeah. I mean, that's a hard thing to break into. It's a very niche market.
Yeah, because you're doing it on your own. I mean, I wasn't. Nobody helped or anything like that.
Yeah.
Same with the stream, really. I mean, you know, I just picked a day and I started it with a few false starts, mind, but. Yeah, it was scary, and to a degree, it still is. You know, you're self-employed, working on your own, and of course, the pandemic element of things has changed things, and that's much of the reason why I ended the show. I mean, at the end of the day, there was nothing wrong with the show. The show was great. It was getting more entertaining, and so on. It just I'd done it for over 2 years, and it was the 100th show, and I was going back through everything, all the videos, and I just realised that I'm a million miles away from what I originally started to do, which was to promote the sound design, which there's a reminder, we're going to do your Incinerator plugin in a moment.
That's true, yeah.
So it was... Well, that's the thing. I kept doing it, and when I was saying stuff about GeoSynths, I was feeling a little bit embarrassed about it because I had guests on and all that kind of thing. Right. I always felt like I shouldn't say anything. So, but of course, lots of more people have been doing sound design. You know, now that you know, they've been on furlough or whatever, and the more guests you have on, and more sort of prominent guests, because obviously people have seen the guests that I've had on, but there's a lot more I've contacted, you know, and some have agreed and then pulled out or whatever reason. Then there's research of those guests, and it was just taking up so much of my time that I wasn't devoting to sound design. Right. So it was the 100th show was probably the catalyst for it. When I started to think about it, of course, you know, tried new things with Lisa, with doing the jam show, and it was great content. I was kind of a bit fake with it because I wasn't a jammer. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't a jammer myself. You know, I can't do it. I've tried it. You know, but the numbers just bombed, and I came to the realization that people are more interested in talking about gear than necessarily what other people are doing with it. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah. That is interesting.
So I thought, you know, there's no point, because that was just another added amount of workload. So it came to then, you know, like I said, I thought about it, but it wasn't really until, well, the day of the last show, I woke up on the Sunday and thought, now's the time.
I got that Mr Wiggly on next week. I just can't do it anymore.
yeah. But no, I mean, it was great. I mean, the people were great. You know what I mean? And it wasn't about, there was no airs and graces with it. You know, people could have like 0 subscribers to there or no channel whatsoever. You know, everyone's got the story, and that was good. It was just, and I'll be honest, you know, I set up if you look at the early streams, they were all sound design. And that was the whole point of it. It was an extension of what I do, which is the day job. And I think people probably come onto it, the stream, and thought, oh, this sound design is just an add-on thing that he does. No, it was the other way around. So
right. No, I mean, that's true, because I didn't watch any of the early ones, and I came across you looking around at the weekend for other synth shows, having watched 1 or 2 of something else. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, what should we watch now? And being a part of that sort of chat crew that kind of jumps around a little bit, you know, and follows each other around to the different things. And I thought you were promoting the brand so that people would come across you because you're making interesting content. And oh, look, he does sound library. So it wasn't that they were on par, but I didn't watch you to learn about sound design to find out why you're a great sound designer. Kind of why I wanted to ask you this here, to be honest, because I don't really know that much about about it, you know. So yeah, you're right. It definitely diverged away from where you were.
Oh, it was 180 degrees from it. And don't get me wrong, like I said, the show itself was great. You know, some really cool guests on. I mean, Ty was on. That went on forever. There was Daniel Fisher, which, you know, I'm a massive fan of.
Yep.
And of course, with the pre-records, I'm, you know, speaking to, you know, Dave Smith. It was like, wow.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was over 2 years, and like I said, it was just taking up more time, and even though there was kind people like Wagyu, you know, donating, and some people in Patreon, though a lot of people with Patreon, it's because of the tutorials, just couldn't make it pay anything. And I think that's the thing with the internet and live streaming, is that, you know, when you start and everything's free, and then later you want to ask for some kind of help money over it, no one wants to do it. So, and I understand that.
No,
so,
and kind of rightly so. I think, you know, it's the nature of the internet, isn't it? But sorry, carry on. Yeah.
No, I mean, and if it hadn't taken up, it was taking up more time than I was doing with the sound design, and I tried to always take Monday off. But you're always thinking about it. You know what it's like. You're thinking about your show. Oh, I've got Jamie coming on. I better search out a little bit about him. Do I know enough about
questions?
Yeah, pop quiz.
I can see he loves them.
Yeah. I think now's a great time to plug the Incinerator, isn't it?
Yes. Talking of Ty, I was going to say I absolutely love the fact that Ty has come out of his room and has appeared on a couple of things. Your show first. He was on Pro Synth Network show. And he's just brilliant, and just absolutely brilliant in his philosophy and outlook on life, and his realness. And talking of Ty, he said that my plugin he couldn't think of a better way to spend £20. So that's assuming you have a spare £20. Obviously, if you don't, then that's not a good way of spending it. But so if we flip over, and I can just show you my plugin. How do I do that? That's here. So this is a little YouTube, tiny little bit of a vid. Hopefully this just shows you what it is. The Incinerator is a plugin that I've developed, and it's like a reamping plugin. So when I'm working here in the studio and I'm using a VST synth or something, I tend to stick it out the speakers and stick a microphone in front of it. So I'll get something like this, even if it's in front of the monitor speakers, and I'll just record it to get some air moving. And then I decided to play around with some other stuff, like a big bass cab from a sound system and an Incinerator, which is a big metal box. And it started to sound really good. So I've got all those set up here, and the obvious extension to that was to turn it into a plugin so everyone could do it. So 20 quid gets you the Incinerator. So I'll just play this for a little bit. So let's take a look at the plugin itself. This on screen now is the Incinerator. Super simply laid out, hopefully really easy to use. The Mr. Wiggly mantra of plugin development is basically super high audio quality, low on CPU, low on cost, and really simple to use. And this is it. This orange section in the middle is where it all happens. You have a dry signal, which is your original sound going in, which you can add a wet signal, which is you're mixing in the level of the incineration going on. You have a type of incineration here, so you can flip between the amp and speakers that I've been using in the studio. You've got the standard Incinerator, you've got a bass bin, you've got a guitar amp, you've got a ripped up kind of cardboard style amp, and you've got the bass bin stuck on top of the Incinerator with someone sitting on it to stop it kind of clanging around, which is my personal favorite. All right, I'll just whiz it on. You can hear it on a loop, but the wet signal is on 0, the overdrive is on 0, and the reverb and the delay are both switched off. So this is a completely naked loop. This is what it sounds like. So that's without effect. Now, if I turn up the overdrive a little bit, and then I gradually increase the wet signal, so we're mixing the wet Incinerator in with this loop, you'll start to hear the Incinerator have an effect. So can you hear the sound of that air moving? That's the sound of the bass bin on the Incinerator combined. So you're getting quite a big boomy sound, which sounds great. Might be a little bit too much at the moment. You can tail it off a bit. Here's the original. And there's the incinerated version. So there you go, and it sounds great on standard synths as well, which is really cool. So I won't show you the whole video, obviously. Go take a look at Mr Wiggly's YouTube channel, which you're on now if you're watching this, and the video a couple of times before this is the one that you want to see. I'd love it if you supported me and bought it. You actually get something for your support rather than just maybe banging something in as a donation. So Wagyu called it Dom's dusty bin, which I ended up highlighting on the screen. And someone's mentioned in the chat about there was someone on social media who thought that plugin actually connected them to my studio here, to my incinerator in real time over the web, and sent me a really nasty kind of response on Reddit saying, I can't believe this is such a rip-off. It doesn't even send my audio anywhere over the internet. So just
welcome to having your own channels. Exactly. Yes.
Just in case you think that's what it does, it doesn't. But it does sound great, honestly. So well worth a try out.
It does sound great. I got it, and it does. I was saying to you, I stuck it on effects returns, and not just as an insert, and you add the extra reverb and all that kind of. It's great. Very good. Thank
you very much indeed. Right. Well, it is that time when I can flip Jamie's favourite time of the day, when we have another. I didn't actually have that long to put that together. You can probably tell. It's Loullamae's quiz, my 9-year-old daughter. So, as you didn't see last week, these are going to be quite hard because she's kind of assumed that you can read her mind. These are specifically for you, though, Jamie, although chat can help out. I might even use a couple of the questions from last week. No. Let me see. What is my favourite toy?
Oh, what is it? Rabbit.
Well, I'll give you a clue. It's the name of a toy, as in like Jimmy.
Sorry,
it's not Jimmy. It's not like a doll or a rabbit. It's
right.
The name of it.
She's named it then.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
You would know that. I would have thought.
Right. Dolly.
Open. Well, close. Open it up to the chat. I don't think you're going to get it. Esmeralda. Teddy. No, it's Bubba. So you're all wrong on that. How many BFFs do I have?
Oh, 3.
Bang on. Absolutely brilliant. So you are now in joint first place with Piero the Acid Clown, who also got one right by knowing that the name of her elephant was Ellie. So we're tied for first place here, which is just incredible.
The next question, when it comes to me answering it, can you do a close-up for the beads of sweat?
Oh, yeah, we can have some quiz music. Here we go. All right. I will do your close-up now so that I know what's going on. Just leave. Oh, yes. How many teeth have I lost?
Oh, 4. Wow.
No. Anyway, you can have another go, and anyone else in the chat. A person loses 20 teeth, apparently. So it's between 0 and 20, and she's 9.
9. Okay. I'd say 9.
Sorry. Anyone in the chat? No, we're still going. It's 11. Sorry about that. We'll have one last one. If you can get this, you will be the top of the leaderboard, which is pretty astonishing, to be honest, because both people have at least got one right. So, what is Zach's nickname at school?
Z-Star.
No, I'll give you a clue. It's a kind of rhyme.
Limerick.
No, not that kind. It kind of rhymes with Zach.
Oh, right. I was going to say. Jack.
No, I am sorry. Can anyone in the chat think of a rhyme of Zach that would make a good nickname? It's Quack, not Whack. Native Yes is the
right.
closest with Whack. They nicknamed him Lord Quack of Quackington, which I think is quite creative for a 9-year-old kids. But yeah, his nickname is Zach. Well, you are in joint first place, so that's absolutely fantastic. Tied for first place with Piero the Acid Clown, who is in the chat. And I will put up the list somewhere, I think. Love Shack says Love Shack Zach, yes. No, I think not. Okay, so the last thing I kind of really wanted to talk about was kind of how you got here, what you're up to. Now you're not doing the chat anymore and the live streaming. Kind of where do you go from here? What's it going to be like in 5 years' time in a perfect, realistic world? What are you going to be doing? And actually, there was another question to kind of preface that, because I would imagine that it's quite hard to judge how many patch libraries you're going to sell, because I don't think the manufacturers tell you how much of the kit is in circulation. Like we've just sold 10,000 matrix or 100,000 matrix. So with my business head on, it would be very, very hard to predict. Let's say 0.05% of owners buy your patch library, or 1% or 10%, whatever that number is. It's almost impossible to work out, I would imagine, unless you can get some insider info on sales predictions, and therefore cash flow and so on. How does that?
You're right. I mean, there's no inside info with manufacturers, and I guess there's 32 years I've been kind of doing this, so you get to know what kind of synth's going to work and what's going to sell possibly and what isn't. So also there is a shelf life. We all look at synths, we talk about them for a year or two, but of course, as soon as this latest synth has come and we're all shouting about it, we get it on our desk. Then it's next. What's next? Which again, that was part of, like I was saying, the format of the live stream, because it was about news, and as I mentioned, people like talking about synths rather than what other people do with it. And that I was getting a little bit tired of that kind of latest news thing. Because at the end of the day, Sonic Talk do it, and in my view, there's nobody better than Nick. That how he sort of does it. His show is the same show that we know it's there for an hour. It always leaves you wanting more. So it seemed like I was just doing another version of that. I tried other things as well, but
sure.
But yeah, I mean, going back to in terms of synth patches, it's very difficult. Yeah, some work well, some don't. You just don't know. And generally, it's not a case of buy the synth, make a few patches, and send it back. It doesn't work that way. Or it's not even necessarily won't even make your money back off the first volume. It's volume 2. Wow. I mean, I was able to really do it because of my personal circumstances, in that it was just me. I could move around and all that type of thing. So, it's kind of worked for me in that sense. But yeah, you never know. Some work great, and some you think, this is going to be really great. It's the best bank I've ever done, and then it trickles.
It's hard, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
You can't give away trial versions and stuff as well. So you can obviously promote what they sound like. But for me, making that demo would be equally, if not harder, than making the patches sometimes. I mean, finding something that shows off what you've got is...
Well, I'm probably one of the only sound designers or patch library makers that demos every single patch. Because unfortunately, there are some people that will try and get your sounds in not so, legal ways or nice ways. Yeah. So I demonstrate every single one, and I know some people, I don't want to listen to all that, but it's to cover me a little bit. So I won't go into it, but so I demonstrate every single sound I ever make. Plus, that also it allows people to listen and see what the controllers are doing. Because my philosophy behind making it's not a preset, like it's just stuck. You click onto a sound and it has a starting point, but it can go lots of different ways just with controllers. Get the right one. and totally change without you having to touch any of the knobs. So my philosophy is to, starting point, you can radically change the sound, but you can always come back to it. So that type of thing takes time to do, especially with things like the Moog One, because it's each patch can be 3 layers.
That's astonishing.
So yeah.
And no mean investment as well. I think they did ask you to get involved, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They hired me to. I worked for Novation with the Peak. They hired me. They were doing the firmware update with some added wavetables. So I had to make 50 patches that used at least one of the new wavetables. So you get a kind of brief. Then Mo contacted me. I'd put out Singularity Volume 1, which was the first bank. And they wanted a classics bank, things of songs from the past. So I asked them, well, what can you do, like a list of songs that you'd like and 3 sounds within that, so like a pad or whatever like that. So they did a spreadsheet for me. Took a lot of listening, obviously, to the original, to get the kind of sounds. And vintage sounds they're easy, because there's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's not like a million mod matrices or anything like that on old vintage synths, but it's difficult because you've got to be accurate with it. So that was great. And I've just carried on doing, I've done volume 2 for it, and I'm going to be working on volume 3. So, and I've decided to carry on just with the synths that are like, grand plus, because there's lots of people with the pandemic have come out and done things for the cheaper side. And I can't compete with, some of the prices, because obviously, it's possibly their first year. So they don't have to, they're not declaring it, as an income. So they can charge whatever they like. So I can't sort of spend a month, buy the synth. And while I claim, as you know, in business, you can claim against the tax. But if it's a £1,000 synth, you can't claim £1,000 off your tax.
No, because you're not making enough tax on it. At least you get the VAT back, I suppose. But
it's 20%. So I've got to choose wisely.
It's funny because I think it was Nick I was talking to a while back about designing patches where you have an awful lot of aftertouch or stuff happening late. How frustrating it must be that people don't ever find that stuff. So it's almost like you've got a clickbait title for the patch to say, just wait until 20 seconds in when the final LFO kind of kicks in, or there's make sure you push the pitch bit or whatever, or the mod wheel or something, because they used to be so, particularly with the guys that were originally doing the DX7 patches, you could plug that kind of breath control ball in, and after it was the first time that you had a synth with lots and lots of controllers available on it, and all the sounds were kind of built to do that. And I don't think less than half the people even kind of looked into that whole thing and actually heard the sounds as you would as the preset designer.
I can guarantee you, if I didn't do it, someone would pull me up.
I'm sure there's the flip side, right?
I mean, this thing, you've got the slider, you've got the I don't know if you can see it on there. You got the mod wheel. Obviously, you got this Morphe thing, and you also got aftertouch, and so you've got to apply them all to your to every single patch. And of course, there's an A and a B state on the poly route, so they've got to apply to that as well. So where relevant, anyhow.
Wow.
That's a lot of work. And then you've got to explain that in a text document.
Right, exactly. That's the bit where to take full advantage of this thing for some bloke to just flip past it once.
I hate that. It's that part of the process. Sound when it comes to sound design, making the sounds is the easy bit. It's all the other stuff. Right.
Because you're in the zone. If you're in the zone and it's enjoyable and you can just get lost in there. And when you've made this, it's a bit like writing a song. Maybe you have to go away and come back the next day and go, actually, those 5 I made yesterday's do work, but that one's a bit suspect. Or how do you do that stuff?
I've been doing it so long now that I don't do versions of it. I'll just make a sound and move on to the next one. Of course, creativity, most people in the chat will know, creativity is a bit like a battery. It runs down and you need time to recharge it. You can't just, move on to the next and just twiddle for your knobs, save, move on to the next one. It's all got to be sort of planned out, and it's got to be different because, I mean, I'm sure everyone in the chat room has probably got their synths, they've made some sounds, it's probably spent half an hour on a sound. Now multiply that time by 128 or 127 extra.
Wow.
And then it might have 2 layers. So kind of double that to a degree. Yeah. So that's the amount of time that goes into making a bank. And then I charge everything in dollars, mainly because the majority of the market is US who buy it. And when I did it in pounds, when it comes to converting to US dollars for them, the number went up, so they didn't buy it.
Oh, of course. So your $9.99 went to 12 or whatever. Yeah, of course.
Yep. So I took a massive hit doing that. So I decided to do everything in dollars, but then I'm at the mercy then of the exchange rate. So
of course.
And have to pay then a fee for the conversion. So there's lots of, $37 for a month's work, and then I've got to recoup the cost of the synth as well.
Yeah, that's tight. Wow.
It is tight.
It
is.
Piracy a huge issue?
It's not huge. It's just the way that some people are. I stayed away a lot from software synths, making patches for that, because a lot of people don't, not a lot, some people don't buy their software, so they're not going to buy my patches.
Interesting, yeah. There is a concept that software is kind of, piratable, obviously, rather than I can see the mentality.
Yeah, I mean, no one's going to pirate, some may, but necessarily go for like Moog 1 patches when they haven't got Moog 1.
Yeah.
So it's like anything that's in a digital form. The main thing is you'll sometimes get some not so nice people, and they'll find dodgy ways to get and not pay you, So you have to be. It doesn't touch wood. It doesn't happen that often, but I chase them around the internet. So
yeah, of course.
there's no. I'll name it.
Stalking.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions. So really, in 2 or 3 years' time, you're seeing yourself obviously more expensive synths coming through, more version 2, version 3, version 4 of libraries and stuff, more of the same effectively, or are you looking at anything else at the moment?
Well, the thing is, what I did, I stopped the show for that format. I haven't stopped the idea of live streaming.
Oh, great.
So it's just that format, and of course, it taking up your weekend for 2 years. So no, I'll definitely be back doing live streaming, but it'll be in line with what I intended to do in the first place. And of course, now I've got a good couple of years experience of streaming to that I can apply to that. So I've got some great ideas on what I'm going to do for that. But the core is sound design, sound designers, because I don't think there's anything else like that. I mean, effectively it became an editorial show, but I don't have. I mean, it makes sense for something like Sonic State to do it because they are an editorial, they're a publisher, and if people like Sound on Sound did it, though for me, it was 180 degrees. And then, Pandemic's been great. There's been lots more live streams, I certainly encourage it, but there's lots of the same format popping up. And I think for me, it was, like I say, it just wasn't one reason, and there was nothing wrong with the show, and the audience were great, And I know I apologise if I didn't do like an ending show, a last show, but
well, that means it's not ended. You got to leave them wanting more.
Well, that was the thing, But I announced it, and I felt awful inside as I was saying it, but in my mind, I'd already kind of thought, it's going to be happening, because I just. Yeah, great. If someone wanted to come along, some sponsors say, there you are, there's money, that'll cover your costs. And you don't have to worry then because the sound design was paying for all the equipment and the.
Well, exactly. You're sponsoring yourself. It's It's the same as having plugins or stuff for me that, this is a useful interest. I'm doing this for experience and hopefully to build up a little, core base of people who like the stuff that I'm doing, off the back of Sonic State and so forth. And it's fun.
Exactly. And that makes so much sense to do. But I just think the format just was going wrong direction for me as a business, because I could just concentrate all my time on that, but I wouldn't be making any money.
What looked great to me, and I can't remember what, it would have been a fairly recent episode where you said, I keep being asked about how I make a patch. I'm going to make a pad. And then you just made a pad. Was it on your show? You just basically ran through the patch making process from the start, and in about 10 minutes, and you'd made this really, really nice kind of sound. And that I learned a lot from that, actually, just watching the way you did it and your mind.
I've done quite a lot of
really good.
Yeah, free tutorials to people. I keep some stuff back to myself, but I've got to have a tiny bit of an edge. I mean, I was kind of demystifying it a little bit, because I remember the times when I had synths and I just, it was that turn up oscillator 1, oscillator 2, detune, go for the filter cut off, turn it, wiggle it around, and that was it. Messing around with the envelopes, didn't really know what it was doing, and setting the same shape for the amp and the VCF. I remember that, and I kind of come up with a workflow, which really the filter cut off was probably the last thing in the process that got used. And by then you kind of got to a sound. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just like any skill. It's hours. That's it. Just got to throw hours at it.
You're not giving away anything. I've always found, obviously there might be some tricks that you use on the particular synth that you've found and use to advantage that you may want to keep to yourself. But in general, at that kind of level, you're gaining customers. You're showing people that your knowledge and sharing that. I remember the first videos and stuff I did on YouTube were about the deluge, which just got me into it. I bought a deluge to change my workflow because I wanted a little box to work on, and I thought, well, there's not much videos out there about it. I'll do one on sampling and stuff. And it was very basic. It was, here's how you sample into it. I'm going to sample something off my phone, turn it into a loop, mess with it, and that's it, And loads of people are like, oh, this is brilliant. This is exactly what I need. And I was thinking, this is very basic stuff, but okay, fantastic. Now I get it. So I did one on synths, and in the middle of the synths, I was saying, right, well, it's got a couple of oscillators and a subtractive thing, and it's got FM in there and all sorts. But here's a very quick. This is what subtractive synthesis is. You got your oscillators making a big buzz, and you carve out bits of it to make your end sound. And everyone's like, oh, I get it. Even one of the guys who worked for Synthstream said, I've learned a lot from your video.
Well, that's the thing. You know your own experience, and you think of it that other people and other people have just got into it.
Exactly.
And you can't run before you can walk. That old cliche sort of saying. But no, I mean, my only thing is anyone who wants to do their own content. It's very easy to look at what other people do and be put off by it. It's like, oh, it's too much work, whatever. And it can be a lot of work, but I do, a background in a lot of like motion graphics and stuff like that, but I don't do any of that in these videos because it doesn't need it, Right. So, but yeah, don't concentrate on what other people do and just do what you do.
Well, this is, I think you hit an age or an experience, a number of years of experience, and then you realize that you've got an advantage on people coming in that is, that you can train them in, just the experience of having a hit record, or the experience of working in a major studio, or the experience of recording someone, or that I've kind of taken for granted now when I look back on it. And you just completely forget that guy's walked home with his first synth. And there's all these knobs and buttons, exactly as you say. And it's like, well, what does this do? Why isn't there a sound coming? There's a great post with the 2600, the Behringer 2600, with a picture of it saying, it's not making a noise. What have I done wrong? Actually, when mine came, it didn't make a noise either. I had to look at it for about 45 seconds. Now it's there, And imagine if we didn't know what we were doing, let alone, you would be there for hours.
Oh yeah, I mean, it could put off a lot of people as well. But I mean, it's a great time though. I think for all of this, the past 5-6 years have been fantastic with the synths coming out. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for the kind of resurgence of analog synthesizers. Anyhow, it seems like the types of sounds I make seem to, excuse the pun, resonate with people, because I just make what I like,
So it's all analog. I didn't actually click, but yes.
Well, no. It's mainly that. I mean, I'll do wavetable, I'll do anything, FM, whatever. It's all, in my mind, it's all the same stuff. A few extra terminology, different terminology, it's all the same thing. It's been fantastic, I think. Yeah, I mean, the only death knell for what I do is the whole AI stuff.
I was just going to say AI.
That's how it could be. I mean, I've seen sort of versions of it already to a degree, inklings of what it can do. It'll, like you've got mic modeling, you've got then GEOSynths modeling, and then another sound designer modeling, and just play out, and it'll just spit out 1,000 patches.
You got to build your brand. It's a bit like saying that drum machines will make drummers.
Yeah, it is like that. It is.
It's okay. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I think AI make this synth sound like that will be interesting. AI to me is basically numbers, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of millions of bits of data that converge to say, if a very, very clever example of people who bought that also bought this. If this sound is like this, I can make it sound like this.
It's relationship databases.
Exactly. So a chess computer is just the better. A chess computer will be looking so many moves ahead at every single possible combination, and a better chess computer will be looking further. It isn't rocket science, funnily enough, and these things are I can't remember who made a good point and on another Sonic State thing, saying the last thing in the world I want with my patches or anything to do with my music is what someone else bought, if you see what I mean. So someone else buys this, also bought this. This is the opposite of what a lot of people want out of music. They do not want this AI generated. I think you'll like this one, sir, because lots of other people did.
Well, we see that with everything, don't we? I mean, you look at one ad and you just bombarded them, and no matter what website you go on with the same sort of things.
Absolutely.
No,
okay, so I'm sure you must have answered this a lot of time, but top three synths if you weren't doing patch libraries, but you've obviously played a lot of synths. What are your favorite three?
OB6 is my favorite synth. It's just organic, it's wiry, and I just love the taste. 3-dimensional for the sound. I would say then, what have I got you? The Nord Lead A1, funnily enough. I love that little thing. I absolutely love it. No, it's not a bass monster, but really, if for bass, you don't really buy polysynths for that. They're voiced differently. And I would say probably third one would be a Leipzig S, Analog Solutions, because that is just earth-shattering. The bass on that. So, and hopefully they are sending me the version 3 to review. So that'd be cool.
Cool. Well, I can offer you, I was going to do a whole thing about finding odd things on Reddit, but I can offer you a lemur getting its back scratched, Biggie Smalls freestyling when he was 17, or a cat bus.
Cat bus.
Cat bus. Okay. Here's a cat bus. Actually, we might have time for two because this is a very short cat bus. There you go.
Jesus.
I've been trawling Reddit for some entertaining stuff to watch, and so you can definitely have another one. You can have Biggie Smalls or a lemur getting its back scratched.
Go for Biggie.
Okay, this is amazing. I'm glad you chose this because he is 17 years old and everything about this clip is just like perfect. It's like where he is, the people around him. There's a guy live scratching. It's brilliant. Just brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah.
17 years old, just incredible. I'm going to give you the lemur as well. Here's I think it's a lemur. It's a lemur telling someone where to scratch its back. A bit more. Yeah, okay. Thank you. And a little bit more. That's brilliant. Don't you love animals? Here you go. Oh, yeah, just there. Sorry. Okie dokie. Well, listen, thank you so much. It's just been absolutely brilliant. The insight into what's been going on is just fantastic. Thank you.
No worries.
It's really
no worries.
nice to hear you talking rather than interviewing and pressing buttons and all the rest of it. Not that that wasn't a brilliant show, and I really enjoyed it, but it's a real pleasure. I thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
And I will put links to everything underneath this afterwards for anyone who wants to come back and check out your stuff. And mine as well, but honestly, really, really good. So might as well call it a day. That's an hour long. That's perfect. So thank you very much indeed.
No problem. Everyone, go and buy Incinerator.
Oh, that's such a nice thing to say. Thank you very, very much indeed. That's really, really cool. All right. So thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody. And if we make it to 3 in a row, we've done 2, then I'll see you next week. Thanks very much. All right. Take care. Cheers.
Urbanist connect so with the herb pipe. Link up the harmonized, left the termite. But beyond obsolete blessings, a birthright. To live a life which a lot for me, no side worldwide. Cosmic love energy, I go herbicide free, organically, me say worthwhile. Watch the way one of you change term points in terms of definitions and some termites. Get sidecheck the eye. One side is defined by one side the other. I.e. I am an ideas man. I assign too much of the qualities of my guy. Who's free if I'm talking like this to me?